We're following this stuff as fire department in like 2 weeks. Well, then as we have that business. I also felt those.
All right, this is 9 o'clock. We'll go ahead and call this admin meeting over. So sorry for the different setup today. Just a lot of construction going on. This number one, unsafe. Number two, a lot of noise and fumes coming into current commission chambers. So we're gonna do it up here, but it's quiet. We don't have to smell gas or diesel exhaust, and don't worry about falling out of the window. Let's see, under awards and presentations, we have a presentation at 10 o'clock. Miss Karen Mann is going to be here. I actually met her a couple times before, but saw her last week. So I think we'll have some people come with her, but we'll go over the history of Columbia. Any objections to that one going on?
No objection.
Item number 2 under awards and presentations is proclamation for crime victims. With Katie Lewis, the outreach director for Wiregrass Angel House, will be here. I think Commissioner Herring will read that proclamation. Any objections for that?
No objection.
Item number 3 is another proclamation, Small Business Week. Miss Lori Wilcoxon from the Dothan Area Chamber of Commerce will be here. Any objections to that?
No objection.
And the last proclamation, item under award and presentation is a proclamation for National Library Week. Mr. Chris Warren, Director of the Dothan Houston County Library System, will be here for that proclamation. Any objections for that?
No objection.
All right, we have a rather long consent agenda. We can break this up into separate items if y'all want to. If you vote against any of these, we'll be turning away federal funds. We have 5 items on the consent agenda. One, I'll read them individually, is a request to enter into a federal aid construction agreement with ALDOT for the funding of the resurfacing project on South Broadway Street. Item number 2 is a request to enter into a federal aid construction agreement with ALDOT funding of the resurfacing project on Taylor Road. Item 3 is a request to enter into a federal aid construction agreement with ALDOT for the funding of the resurfacing project on Hamilton Highway. Item 4 is a request to approve resolution for the resurfacing of Ashford Road from Jen Ivy Road to Midland Street, and that will be using NPO funds. And also NPO funds will be used on item number 5, which is a request to approve resolution for the resurfacing of Enon Road from Ashford Road to Alabama Highway 52 East. Our county engineer is here today. Why don't you make any comments with people necessary on these?
Well, the first 3 are projects that have already lit. They'll be starting here pretty soon.
Okay.
And the other 4 and 5 are projects that will be lit coming up here pretty soon.
Gotcha. So the 4 and 5, if we approve these, when do you think work will start on those?
Well, they'll be later on in the year, so it'll probably be next year.
Next year.
Yeah, next fall anyway, to the earliest.
1, 2, and 3 will be done very soon. Any questions about any items on the consent agenda?
So Brandon, so what they recommend, you gonna do is a consolidated vote with the consent agenda, or you go just read it like that?
Correct, yeah. We'll do
Do
it.
you want to motion, just leave it all up to one consent decree?
Yeah, you just need a motion to approve the consent agenda at the regular meeting.
And these are all NPO projects.
Oh, they're all in the.
Yes.
Okay. Okay, I got you. We're on the same page. No objection. No objection putting this on the agenda?
No objection.
All right.
Anytime we're paving road, we have no paving road.
Brandon, that's somebody that may run.
Yeah.
Does the county resurface or is that contract?
It's a contractor.
We don't do any asphalt stuff.
We do the cross train, the shoulder work, striping and all that. Clearing to get it ready to replace pipes. They pave it though. We hire somebody to pave it.
All right, I am moving on to the regular agenda. We have a request from Wicksburg Youth Athletic Association for in-kind services for their recreation park. Mr. Danny King is here. Danny, why don't you Stand up, introduce yourself, and tell us about this project, why we're here, why you're here, and what you need us to do.
Well, we've lost our fields out at Wicksburg. We've got about 300 kids that play baseball, softball. Got probably another 90 that play football, and the school system is expanding. So they've decided the best place to expand is the side of our fields. So at the end of this season, it's projected that we'll lose all our baseball fields there. So they have given us 20 acres of land up on the hill to construct new fields. But of course, we don't have any source of income. Only income we get is through donations, and we've applied for some grants, but they're small grants, they're not large grants. So right now, since I guess last October, when they elected me president, we've accumulated about 10,000 through donations and grants. But that's the tip of the iceberg when you start building fields. But anyway, we would like for the county to assist us any way they can, coming in, leveling the land, clearing the site, just anything that you could do as far as help there to get us going. But it doesn't look like, we're going to have a place to play next year. So that's where we are right now.
What is don't mind me asking, what is the budget that y'all have that you need to raise to make this project happen? Because even if we do the work, y'all still have some work to do.
We do. Now, we went through the same situation 15 years ago, and the fields that we have now, we didn't get any funding on those. We built those fields ourselves, in phases. We come in, we cleared the land, we put up fencing, we basically built a concession stand with bathrooms. So, we pretty much plan on doing this the same way. But if you look at James Oaks, that facility costs $13.5 million. But I think that's 14 fields. We're only going to have 4. And we'll probably start out with just 2 or 3 and then add the others.
Yeah.
So, with us doing it, a few $100,000, I don't know exactly. But if we apply for grants, we thought about applying for Alabama grants. We have there's one through the conservation department that you get 500,000 if you're awarded the grant. But the problem is that you lose control of your facilities there. That it becomes government property in perpetuity. So we really want to keep it under our control if we can, so we'd like to do it ourselves.
I know, we've talked about ways that we might be able to help, with that, and that's still doing some research to see what we may or may not be able to do.
Right, we need a source of income.
Yeah. I think ultimately that, the best thing for Wicksburg to do, from y'all standpoint, is to incorporate that way you have leadership and funding, but
Yeah.
that's easy to say and
It's very easy to say and very difficult to do. Yes.
What questions do y'all
I
have?
don't think that water, you think it'll be a bad way to go to soil and conservation grant?
Well,
But I know what you're saying,
We-
but ultimately,
right, we have a board and we have a building committee, and both of those different entities did not want to use that grant because of the lack of control that they'll have.
You think you guys do it for a couple $100,000?
We can get started for that. We can get something to play on probably, because what we're gonna do is move the fencing and a lot of the infrastructure that we have now, we're taking it down at the end of the season and we're gonna move it up there to use it.
To really have it right, you
And
have
we-
about $1.8, $2.2 million project.
Probably. It's, it's expensive, but a lot of that expense is usually for the cost of the land and going into parking, paving the parking and so on. So we're not gonna do that to start with. We may do it at some point in the future, but we've always just parked on dirt, and that's probably what we'll continue.
Commissioner, I did you think?
Was you able to get any information from the Wiregrass Electric grant that I sent you information?
We do, and we're in the process of applying for that grant, but it's only 10,000, but 10,000 helps. And we also submitted a grant through the Alabama RC&D agency for another 10,000. So they accepted that, and it's under consideration. So they said we could hear something as early as late May on that. So, we're applying, we just haven't heard of it. It's a process.
So I got it.
Yes, sir. If you don't mind.
Yeah.
Okay. What's the reason you are losing the field you got now?
The school system voted to construct the elementary classrooms, new elementary classrooms, and a gymnasium on that site. So they.
So it's the school's property, the school's using it because the school's expanding, of course, the school's growing, and then you're
Right.
losing that property because the school's expanding.
Right.
And now y'all need somewhere to play your sports.
That's correct.
And that's okay.
I got it.
Pretty much.
And then
Pretty much.
the other question I got, Barkley, if we do in-kind services on this, I mean, what kind of time frame are y'all talking about? I mean, what kind of time do y'all have right now? Where are you at?
We are solid, but, we can fit in stuff like clearing. Can be done on rainy days when other stuff can't be done, and, as far as if we decided to do the ball fields, we can, but we have Ashford Fire Department lined up starting in 2 weeks, and then the big, Hodgenville project's probably gonna start in a month or so, and that's got a timeline on it with a grant associated with it.
Yeah.
And we'll be there all summer and into the fall.
Yeah.
So we can't do a project like Hodgesville and this one, because those are both will be two big jobs. 'Cause this is like a 20
20 acres,
site,
right.
20-acre site. This will be equivalent to sheriff's building or the Homeland Security building.
I think I know you're requesting, I'll help you get, I think what we want to prove today is the site clearing, so clearing the trees. Now, we may come back later and do other stuff, but we feel pretty strongly that we can fit that in. But I don't think we feel confident to be able to fit into other, at least in the immediate term.
It just depends on your time frame, maybe.
Yeah.
Commissioner Harvey?
I certainly think we should help. We did the same thing for the city of Dothan. We have Dothan in that whole Granville project. I mean, my model, but we do brother, we do for anybody.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
This is $30,000 labor and equipment is kind of our cost for the site, the clearing.
Yeah.
And then, like I said, we may come back later and do more once we have time, but, and just so y'all know, and I've talked to Danny, I mentioned this to you and a few others, so I'm looking at the possibility of doing a sales tax for the Wicksburg School District that would fund the totality of this project. I've not found anything that says we can do that. I've not found anything that says we can't do that. Certainly, we've not gone to communities to check to see if they're interested, but I know that will work. I know it's on the project. Now, this would be, in my mind, unless y'all want to change it, a temporary thing that once the project is funded, the sales tax goes away, but there's a lot of work that's got to be done between now and so. And that might be helping me. Any other questions on this?
And what's the time frame? Do y'all need this done by? Like, need to do this up? What's the time?
Yeah, well, we lose our fields this year after the season, which is in May. We got, 3 youth football teams that normally practice on those fields, and they'll start practice in August. We don't have anywhere for them to practice. Of course, it's just not feasible to get all this done by then, so we got to find alternatives for that for a while, but if we could get somewhere to play by next season, which would be start practicing in February of next year, that would be good.
Can I ask you a question?
Yes, sir.
if the county went in there and did the grading and spread the topsoil and all that, I mean, like, are y'all talking about putting like sodded fields like Open Doug, or y'all gonna plant grass?
We're gonna plant grass on the grant that we applied for through Alabama RCND. That grant was for grass seed and clay for the infields. So if they approve that, that would cover the grass and.
Because I know when they do sod, I mean, it has to be finished to a T. And we don't really do that.
Yeah.
Now, you know, we could probably get it good enough to plant grass in.
We're gonna plant probably. I don't see us, it's too expensive, give us trouble.
But if you're doing sod or turf versus, you know, peaweed.
Yeah.
It's two totally
Yeah,
different animals.
we'll have clay infields.
Yeah,
And we'll have seeded outfields.
yes.
Any other comments, questions? No. All right, any objection to this item going on the regular?
No objection.
No objection.
Is this something we could start to if we vote to do it? I mean, is it? I guess we could go pretty quick, right?
Yes, sir. Sooner the better.
All right, item number 2 is a request to adopt a resolution to increase the water lab testing fee from $15 to $20. And actually, we don't have a resolution, so we may need to change that word to say request to increase. Request to increase water lab testing fee from $15 to $20. So, Mr. Kim, why don't you give us a heads up on why this is needed and that sort of thing.
Okay, my name is Kim Wilson and I am the supervisor for the Houston County Regional Water Lab. The last increase for water testing was done in 2006, so that's been like 17 years. It went from $12 to $15. We order all of our products from a company called IDEX. And they are the only place we can order from. That's the only company that the state of Alabama recognizes. And I mean, they raise their prices every year. So just trying to increase it from $15 to $20. It's been a while. And I think it's time. We average right now $62,000 to $65,000 a year. That will bring it $82,000 to $85,000. The increase. And it's just time. We talked. It's been a while.
Kim and I talked last couple of weeks ago.
Yes.
Talked about how they were, you know, losing a little bit of money and it'd be nice to not lose money.
Right.
Anyway, any questions on this item? Any objections that are going on? Thanks.
Yes, sir.
All right, item number 3 is a request to adopt resolution approving the issuance of a tax exempt revenue obligation by the Cooperative District of Southeast Alabama and company approval by chairman related to refinance of district's bond related to ACOM facilities. We have the CFO of Southeast Health here with us today. So why don't you stand up and talk about why y'all are here and what y'all are planning to do.
Absolutely. Thank y'all for letting me come here this morning. We are, this is an opportunity to refinance the construction loan that Regions Bank funded our construction of ACOM about 10 years ago. The original bond was issued in 2012. It was a tax exempt bond, meaning the interest income to the holder is exempt from federal taxation. So Regions took the whole bond. So that was it's called a private placement, where one entity purchases the entire bond issue. And a lot of advantages to having a private placement where you very fluidly can negotiate amendments over time if circumstances change and you need to update. A couple of things that are driving this reissuance of that bond, or number one is this is a variable rate bond. So the interest rate every month fluctuates based on the index. And that index was LIBOR, LIBOR. It's based in London. It's the exchange rate between banks. And so it's a worldwide index for floating rate debt for a lot of decades. But that index is being sunset in June. So worldwide, it's going away. It will not be available for an index for bond issues like this in the market. So that's creating some urgency that we have to pick a new index, and we've talked with regions about that. The standard is an index called SOFR or SOFR. I can tell you right off without my cell phone, tell you what those letters stand for, but it's one of the two index rates that are being used worldwide to replace LIBOR, and it trades very similarly to LIBOR. And so we need to get that done before June, or we'll there's some provisions in the loan agreement that allows Regis just to determine a new index and just tell us what it's going to be. But and I believe it would be the same rate. But the best thing to do is just to have an amicable, hey, let's just amend this agreement ahead of that, that occurring in June. So that's what we'd like to do. The other thing that's we're taking the opportunity, since we're going to have to redo the debt to take care of the index. This debt had a mandatory put in March of 2024, and very common with bank placements. They can, it's a 25-year amortization, so we're making payments monthly on this note every month, and as if it was a 25-year term. But at the end of the 10th year, in March of 24, that's about 12 years, there's a mandatory put, and that's there to give the bank an opportunity to rediscuss the terms with you. Hey, situation's different now than it was 12 years ago. We changed the interest rate. It gives us a chance to ask for a lower interest rate. So what we'd like to do is take away the uncertainty of having that balloon payment coming due a year from now, and Regions has agreed they'll keep all the terms in place and allow this debt to amortize through its ultimate maturity in about 15 years down the road in 37, and have no more balloon obligations. So it'll just be a normal amortization on the way out. Don't have to worry about that again. So we get the new index in place. We solve that problem. We eliminate this potential balloon payment a year from now, so we don't have a potential, $26 million we have to pay to Regions. It just amortizes out. It's very helpful to the college. And the reasons before you guys is that you're from the IRS's viewpoint, you guys are the parent company to the authority to appoint the board. And so you're required to give your consent to issuing this tax exempt debt. Another part of that was a hearing. We had to run an ad in the newspaper, notifying the public that we're about to do a tax exempt bond issue. We had a hearing at the medical center in the conference room last Thursday morning. I sat there for 10 minutes and nobody showed up. We didn't expect anybody to.
What happens?
It'd be a pretty boring conversation if they did. And but we gave them the opportunity to come in and ask questions, make comments. Nobody showed up, so we checked that off of the requirements of the IRS has. So that's all been done. And so this resolution just acknowledges, the county acknowledges the need for the financing, and acknowledges the fact that most importantly, the fact that we did have the hearing. And then if you approve the resolution, you're authorizing Brandon to sign a chairman's certificate, validating that we had the hearing, came before you guys, and you guys are certifying that we did that. So that's pretty much it.
No, we had some concerns initially about would this affect our ability to borrow money and then affect the bond issue that we did for Sarcoa. And I know y'all kind of modified your original plans. I think what we kind of figured out, I guess what y'all figured out is as long as the debt doesn't increase,
Right.
Then that does not impact our ability to borrow, nor does it impact the Sarcoa bond that we did earlier this year. So there's not going to be any impacts to us or to Sarcoa. So, as far as far as all that's concerned, I'm good with it, but what questions or concerns do?
Mr. Chairman,
Commissioner Harvey,
Commissioner Harvey,
you're
you go
recognized.
ahead. You go ahead.
That's I know you mentioned the index for foreign issues goes away in June, is that correct? Right. So basically, you guys are trying to do this before June, so you grandfather for the next 15 years, basically. Right. That's what I'm doing. Okay. So they said they're taking out the blood out. Yeah, oh yeah,
And take it out that.
yeah. It's a win-win.
Yeah, absolutely.
I get it.
Region has been a phenomenal partner. Back in,
Sounds like it.
back, 10, 12 years ago, we were, we weren't too far past the big financial meltdown and then 2008 and 9. Hospitals starting colleges of osteopathic medicine was something that nobody had done before in the US. And so all the lenders I was talking to were puzzled by it, didn't want to take on the risk. Regions stepped up. So, we're local. We know what you guys are trying to do. We understand it. Helped us with it. Getting that project out there. So they were being great partners.
Worked out well.
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman. What kind of obligation does the county have if we approve this? Let's say if the bond's not paid or whatever it is the county liable to take care of that or anything? Is there anything that we're obligated to, any liability to us? Just a formality?
No obligation at all. And then the resolution even restates that.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Any objections to this item going on the regular agenda?
No objection.
Item number 4 is a request to approve a budget amendment for youth services facilities due to increase in cost of services provided. Peter Coker, Chief Administrative Officer.
Chairman, after the budget process was concluded last year, the chairman and I had a meeting with the executive director of the South Alabama Youth Services facility that our juvenile court system uses for our Houston County Mary Wells. She came to us and she made an argument toward her costs and how it is costing her a tremendous amount of money for her to provide these services to the county. And through that conversation, we were able to arrive at a number that is acceptable by both parties. And this budget amendment gets what's in the current budget up to that level.
Yeah, we actually met with Judge Benford and Judge Ingram. Talk about, I guess, this the number of youths going to the facility. I think that's gotten a little bit better. They found some alternative placements for some of them, but still, it's just like everything. Just nothing's cheap anymore.
And there's an additional issue, like the Department of Corrections, the Department of Youth Services in Alabama is not quickly moving their juveniles to their facilities. And there's really nothing in the law that makes them do that. There's an administrative ruling that they sort of are using, say it's not convenient for them to move them.
I think they're required to take them within so many days. They're making an administrative ruling, so well, we don't have the staff, or well, we don't.
Yeah, it's not convenient.
Yeah.
And so, as the chairman mentioned, we met with the judicial juvenile judge group, including our chief probate clerk, Jeff Osborne, who you may know, to see if so first of all, to really understand the process of all the requirements, and secondly, to see if there was some way in which we could just make it a little less expensive for the county. And letting them be aware of what the cost is to the county and letting them be aware of how they could influence it within the construct of their juvenile responsibilities on the judicial side.
I voiced this during one of our association meetings, and will continue to do so, try to get the state's reimbursement increase because that has not been adjusted for a number of years. And I think right now the state has worked with us on getting county inmates transferred in a more timely manner, but they're not working with us to get these youth transfers. So You know, they get budgeted to take care of these students, or the students, mostly probably students, you know, these children, youth. But then they don't hire enough people, and they don't have all the inmates or detainees as they normally would, so they're getting budgeted to take care of all of them, but they're not taking care of all of them. I think since we're having to provide for their care, and they ought to reimburse us, and we're gonna continue to work on that, but obviously, as we discussed earlier, things take time. Yeah.
So
Any
this is-
questions?
This is about $109,750
Yes.
amendment, budget amendment for this year.
Yes.
Okay. So we're looking at probably 450,000 next year then, whatever. Okay.
Yeah, because pre-COVID, you was probably seeing 20 juveniles a month being moved. Now you might see 4 to 6 a month being moved.
Right.
And it's not that those 14 differentials are not needed to be moved.
No,
They are,
they're just
just
not.
not being moved.
We need to make it administrative.
Yeah.
Rule.
Can we do that?
Any other questions? Any objections to this item going on the agenda?
No objection.
Item number 5 is a request to approve budget amendment for pistol permit grant reimbursement fund. I know Peter has been in the weeds more than he cared to admit, but previously, when someone would come in and buy a pistol permit, and I guess they still do buy pistol permits, but the sheriff would get most of those funds, and he could use them sort of at his discretion. So this reimbursement from the state is in the form of a grant, and the law says that we have to approve the money going to the sheriff. So Peter, you can add any meat to those bones.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. So, as the chairman indicated, this is based upon a law that was passed in 2022. And it essentially allowed the people of Alabama not to have to buy a pistol permit. But if they were, as you all know, if they travel outside of our state, they have to have a pistol permit. So if they go to Florida, they're in trouble. They go to Georgia, they're in trouble if they get by. But the sheriffs around the state said that the majority of this money goes to the sheriff's discretionary fund, which it appropriately should. But with this change in the law, that fund is getting depleted. And the sheriff would use these funds over the years. We buy vehicles so that the county wouldn't have to, he would buy other things. Because Houston County has a local law. Not all counties have local laws, but Houston County has local law on this topic. And it says that 85% of the pistol permit money goes to the sheriff for his use in other law enforcement purposes. And so this law now that is changing the pistol permit law, at the last minute, they included a piece that said, but we will help the sheriff's departments over the next 3 years. It sunsets in 26, I believe it. Help the sheriff's department over 3 years by giving money from the state through a grant administered by ADECA and the Office of Public Examiners, to give that money back to the counties, for the counties, and this is what the law says, the counties put it in their treasury, meaning our general fund, and the county must account for it. In accordance, it has to account for it, considering its uses and purposes, if there's any local law to that effect, essentially. So what we're doing here is we're taking 85% of the money that ADECA has granted to the county, and we are giving it to the sheriff for law enforcement purposes. We're not asking him to say, I'm buying 6 cases of bullets, 3, I don't know, tasers or whatever. It's for law enforcement purposes in accordance with our local law. And so this is our way of being able to get that money back to a sheriff for his rightful purpose.
And we will have to do this every year.
every year until twenty-six. Now, my proposal is that we add this as a budget line item. I think that would probably be the easiest thing to do. I will estimate what that number will be. And that way the sheriff doesn't have to come before the commission every time he wants to get this money for his law. He would just come before you and say, I would like a budget amendment for X number of dollars for me to use for other law enforcement purposes. And I think that's a waste of his time, frankly. That's my opinion, but there it is.
Any questions?
There is, I'm trying to find it, there is a new bill that's up for consideration.
This one?
This legislation that is going to take care of some of that wordage,
Yes.
of having to come back in front of the commission and ask for the money. So all the sheriff has to do is say, hey, give me the money, and it gets sent to the sheriff. So,
But the difficulty right now is the law in the books doesn't say that yet. And this is being administered by the public examiner's office, so it's gonna get hairy eyeballs. So this is, I think, a reasonable solution to accommodate the victims of that law, but also to establish a process for the sheriff to get the money that he's used to getting, albeit much less than what he used to getting from the Mr. Purvis.
Any other questions? Any objections to this item going on the agenda?
no objection.
Right. Item number 6 is a request to approve budget amendment for contract services. Bridge.
Well, this is for work that's gonna be done on Homeland Security, Ashford Fire Department, and the Hodgesville project. They weren't projects last year when we did our budgets, so
There are projects
their
there.
projects, they're actually ongoing projects now, so. And this Homeland Security one is, that's only the entrance road going in. That's not the parking lot or any of that, so this is on the road going in, all the pipe we've laid so far, so.
Well, the Homeland Security project will eventually square up with Oakland, because they donated land, we donated a lot of work, and at some point, there will be a reconciliation of who pays who what for their half of it. Any questions about this item? Any objection to this item going on the agenda?
No objection.
Item number 7 is a request to approve budget amendment for revenues from municipalities. County engineer.
Okay, these are revenues from 2 of these projects, the Hodgesville project, that's not really a revenue from the city, that's our grant, but there's 1.4 million, that'll be coming in as far as revenue for that project. And then there's 110,000 that'll be coming from the, Ashford Fire Department, when they pay for materials and all out there.
So we may need to change this to say request to approve budget amendment for revenues from municipalities and the state of Alabama.
Well, that's really a Peter call there, I mean, whatever you wanna do.
And other sources.
I mean, I don't care if it goes in revenue from cities, I'm just letting y'all know that's actually a grant.
It has a separate budget.
Yeah.
Project.
You good with the wording staying the same?
Yeah, it's irrelevant. Yeah, I mean.
All right, any questions about this item? Any objection to this item going on the agenda? Item number 8 is request to approve budget amendment for materials and supplies. Mr. County Engineer.
Same thing, same 3 projects, Homeland Security, Ashford Fire Department, and Hodgesville. This is the road building material side of it. Cover that project.
Any questions about this item? Any objection to this item going on the agenda?
No objection.
Item number 9 is a request to award bid for crushed limestone, the lowest bidder meeting specs. Had 3 people bid on this, that's good, I guess. Any questions or any objection to this item going on the agenda?
No objection.
Okay. Item number 10 is a request to sell the following items on Gov Deals, 1 lot of sorted metal tin.
Yes,
Where'd this come from?
from the, medical building, what we did recycle.
Gotcha. Good. Any objection to this item going on with you? No objection. And I'll remind y'all, we're gonna go into executive session at the end of the business meeting. I'll talk more about that at the end. All right, we do have one person that signed up to address the commission, but, haven't seen her. Do one final check. She is not here. Maybe she'll sign up next time, so no further business to conduct the admin meeting, we will adjourn and we will, have our regular